Okay, video number 3 of Heart and Home stamp class. We'll get everybody jumping back on. And we are super excited about the card that we have for you. This 4th card is really fun, something different. So hopefully we can teach you something different today. Just making sure everything is set up well. As you hop in, if you'll say hello. So we just make sure that comments are coming through because we may have some questions. And certainly if you are watching the replay and you have questions, just reach out to me and we'll try to help you. This is a fun fold that I had not seen before. LaDonna's back, Cassandra's back. Welcome back, and I've got Oliver and Dale with me for this video. They're waving, or Dale is anyway. He's feeling better after a week of being sickly. Is that a word? Mm-hmm. Sickly. Hi, Donna. Okay, Donna's back. And Becky sent me a message. She had a question. You do have a little bumblebee down in the very bottom of your embellishment package. And that bumblebee I added to this card, but you feel free to use it as you would like. Those bumblebees are from the annual catalog, and they are super, super cute, and they coordinate really well with this suite from the mini catalog. So I love how Stampin' Up! Coordinates. So you can pull embellishments you may have. And I noticed that LaDonna posted her challenge card, so thank you, LD. I did get that thread posted for this share thread. So feel free to post anything that you've been creating recently, or your challenge card, or your spin on today's cards. And then in front of you, you see a template for the card that we're making now. This 4th card in the class. And it is called a center step fold. It does stand up to be displayed, and it's just something really cool I'd never seen before. So let me know if you guys have seen this, if you've made one before. It looks a little bit complicated. It's really not. We have a template here, and I will take a picture. I think we did take a picture. I'll get that posted so you'll have all of the measurements, and I can type them out in the description as well. With this card, remember that you're always going to cut first, score second. That's key, because you don't score all the way across your card in some of the places. Any questions or comments, anything so far, Dee?
No, Gail said hi.
Hi, Gail. Glad you're here with us today. So it's really pretty easy once you know how to do it. And you know, Dale is a lot better at math than I am, and I thought it might help if he shows you how we go from this piece of Pale Papaya cardstock to this piece of Pale Papaya cardstock that you got in your kit. So he has gone ahead. That folds up, right?
No, folds down.
Folds down. Okay. This piece of cardstock is what you have in your kit that's already been cut and scored, but we want to teach you how to do this because it's a really cool card. Before we get started with measurements and cutting, go ahead and pull your supplies out of your packet, and inside you're going to find 2 sentiment pieces. You're going to find a basic white piece that's been die cut, and then also a piece of the Pale Papaya Shimmer Vellum. And I did stamp my sentiment, which is a really pretty one. And it says, "You are a real blessing to everyone around you." And this does come from the Blessings of Home stamp set. But go ahead and stamp your piece of vellum. I used Memento Tuxedo Black. And set this aside because you're going to need it to dry. So if you'll go ahead and stamp your sentiment now, and then we're actually going to adhere the vellum to the basic white die cut. And if you'll notice, what that does is really makes that sentiment pop. But get that sentiment stamped on your vellum, set it aside where you're not going to bump it or put anything on top of it. and that way it'll dry while we're cutting and scoring. And even though yours is done, Dale is still going to show us right quick. Okay, let me move out of the way. Need your trimmer?
Yes, please. My trimmer sits on the other table normally, and it has the metric rail in it, so I have to mark it for my dimensions. And yours has the inch dimensions from the left-hand side, and I've worked from the right-hand side because that's the way I do it.
Yeah, we had an opportunity. I think that this is a trimmer we've had for quite some time, and we tend to wear out trimmers. So Dale got a new arm piece for his, but it was metric. That's what was available. So yours has the inches. They need to work from the top, correct?
Right. They would work from the top, and then you can work with the mark on your trimmer blade and line it up with the inch dimension.
Okay, so on this clear arm are inches, correct?
Yes, if you want.
And it starts at 1.
If you want to hand me your trimmer.
It's right here.
So if you can see that up here, the on this edge, it measures them all off, and so I'm going to cut from, on yours you would slide this in, and you have the 1 inch on the back side. Let me just do it on yours. Take mine away. You bring your cardstock in to the 1 inch mark here.
So you're able to measure 1 inch on that right side.
Okay, and then put your blade in, and then come in here and let it come down where it's in the area where you want it to cut. And I want to show you up here on this, there's a 1 inch mark right here. So I'm going to go up to the 1 inch mark, and I want to center the blade up on that.
Is there a little arrow on the blade?
Yeah, in the center of the blade, there's an arrow. I don't know if you can see it. And there's the 1 inch mark, and then I want to go to the 6.5 inch mark. And then I'm going to raise the trimmer up.
Leaving the blade where it is?
Leaving the blade where it's at. And then I'm going to come to the other side and do the same thing. So now I'm on the 1 inch on the inside of the cut line. And I'm going to put this in the center so that before I'm cutting. And get everything.
Yeah, just take your time and line everything up, because you do have to be pretty precise with this card.
Okay, now I'm going to hold everything in place, and I'm going to once again cut up to this 1 inch mark with the center of the trimmer blade, and cut to the 6.5 inch mark. I don't know if you can see the center of the blade on the 6.5 inch. Can you see that in there?
It has a little bit of a lag.
Okay.
It's okay. If anybody has a question, we can always grab another piece of cardstock.
And
You've got those 2 slits cut in that long piece.
And so you have your 1 inch border on each side, and it's cut from the 1 inch to the 6.5, like is shown on the card.
Okay.
And then what I do is we've had this scoreboard for a long time.
Yeah, mine is a Martha Stewart scoreboard, just because it's one of the first supplies I bought when I started scrapbooking and making cards. But Stampin' Up! Does have a Simply Scored board available. I know lots of you have it.
Put the card over here for a second. And then, because you're only scoring the outsides at the 1 inch, the 2 inch, and the 6.5 inch mark. One of the things I do is I take the little square that came with it, so that when I put this in here and hold it in place, then it allows me to easily find where I need to be.
Okay, I'm not sure what you're doing.
I'm scoring the outer edge at 1 inch.
1 inch. Okay.
That's
Which
it.
end did you start on?
I just, you score the outside on that, on the far end first.
What's the far end? 6.5 inch end? The 1 inch end?
The 1 inch end.
1 inch end. Okay.
And then I
So
come
just the outside of the cut line on
Yes.
either side. And if they don't have that square, they could put a ruler in there, correct?
correct. And then I do the same thing at the 2 inch mark.
Okay.
And I'm scoring just the outside portion of what we, where we just cut, the 1 inch strips on each side. And then I come down to the 5.5 inch mark, and now I'm going to score the inside piece at 5.5 inches. And then I go out to the 6.5 inch mark, and I'm scoring the outside 1 inch area where we cut the 1 inches. Put a score on those. Okay, and then I'll take the square away. Okay, and now what you want to do is you want the top part to fold up and away, and then the bottom, this area down here where you scored it, you want to have that flex back behind itself.
So that it pops out.
So it pops out, and everything lays down and lays flat. And so now this portion of your card is the 5.5 inches, and everything sits there so that it will make that middle fold.
Center fold.
Okay.
Center step fold card. That's what it's called.
All right.
Great, thank you. Okay, you guys can let us know if you have any questions. I did notice that Gail said she's not ever figured out how to cut on the quote inside with this trimmer. I love our trimmer. The fact that it does have that about 1.5 inches margin on the outside really does help in several different ways. So yes, that's a great way to be able to cut on the inside. Thanks, Dee. Okay, let me know if any of you have questions about that. And then the next thing that we need to do is bring our bone folder in. Mine has been buried again. And I just want to burnish the fold lines. So, you know me, I think that's just super important when you're making a card. So some of them you kind of have to tuck in underneath to be able to do that. But isn't that cool? LaDonna says it's easy. It is. It's easy. And it's really cute. And I love the fact that someone could receive this card and then just display it like that. So let's go ahead and get this decorated. Now in your packet, you're going to find that you have a piece of basic gray and a piece of basic white. Now this is not a square, so be sure to find your placement before you put your adhesive on, because I wanted to be able to put, let me show you on the inside of this card, I wanted to be able to write on the inside, but it's not our standard size. So it's a little bit longer, it's a little bit taller than it is wide. So just get that figured out before you put your adhesive, okay? And you could certainly stamp on the inside if you wanted to. Now would be the time before you adhere it down. Oops, I just got glue everywhere. And if I remember right, this is like 4 1/4 by 4, and then 4 by 3 3/4 for the piece of basic white. So it's not a square, it's off just a tiny bit so that it will fit on the inside of our card like this. And we can go ahead and add it. And I thought the pale papaya and gray just looked so good together. And then we're also pulling in cinnamon cider with our designer series paper. And that bee paper is so pretty. I think it may be one of my favorites. So you do have a strip, and again, I can put measurements for this. I can go back in and edit the description of the video and put that for you. And this just has a very small mat. It's just 1/8 of an inch smaller than our gray, so get that centered up really well. Just a very small mat. And depending on your piece of designer series paper, this is really not a directional paper. I notice mine doesn't really have a bee. Well, there it is up at the top. So I'm going to turn that to where my bee shows. On this one, my bee is right in here. And we're just going to come and add this to the front of our card. So it actually comes up, and you're going to leave a bit of a border, about 1/8 of an inch, on the top and the sides. And get that lined up. Now notice Mary said she loves pale papaya. It is such a pretty color. And I think that cinnamon cider looks really great with it. Okay, we'll let that dry for a second. Then we've got a couple strips, a couple more strips of designer series paper. They're just 3/4 of an inch wide. And again, just pay attention to your pattern. It's really non-directional, but if you want your bees to be toward the top, to show them off. And we're just going to slide this down in there. And again, leaving a border at the top and sides. So it doesn't go all the way down to the bottom necessarily. That doesn't really show. And again, this one on the other side. That lined up. We've had lots of noises outside, lots of trains this morning too. I imagine LaDonna has heard them as well. I was woken up by a train this morning. Okay, I'll let that dry for just a second and check and see if I've got any questions. You laid your card flat, LaDonna? Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Layered your card flat to add your DSP. That's a good idea. Yeah, if you've kind of got in mind where your score lines are, that may be easier. Probably be a little bit straighter than mine too. Now you've got another small piece of basic white that has been run through the embossing folder. If you want to add a little bit of color to that, feel free to. I'm just going to add mine across this bottom little piece. And especially when you're doing fancy folds, just do what works for you. And I always like to make a template. I have a folder full of templates. And like I said, I will have a picture of this template for you. But I'll save this in my folder. And that way, you know, 6 months to a year from now, if I want to make another one of these cards, I'll be able to. And I just make my notes on it. So cut first and then score second. And I've got all of my measurements here. That way I can send these cards out and I don't have to keep a card. I've already got that, those dimensions. And then the next thing we're going to do is I need to grab my silicone craft sheet, and I probably need to get this big old gloop of glue off of here that I left earlier. I was trying to get my glue unstuck. But when you are adhering vellum, oops, what I like to do is add some glue with a sponge dauber or a little wedge of sponge. Now you could certainly use a glue dot. It may show just a tiny bit, but it will still work. I think I'm actually going to change my mind. Vellum tends to curl a bit when you put glue on it. So I think what I'm going to do is just very lightly spread some liquid glue on my cardstock piece and bring my vellum to it. I think that's going to be a smarter way. To get those lined up. And again, it's the very same die cut, but by putting the white behind it, I felt like the sentiment stood out a lot more. And it's a beautiful sentiment. And then you have some options again, just kind of based on how your designer series paper looks. You may want to put your sentiment up here. I brought this one down low because of the bumblebee that I wanted to kind of spotlight and feature on my designer series paper. So it just kind of depends on wherever you want to place it. So I think just to be a little bit different, I'll bring this one over here. And again, I'm going to put my dimensionals where I want my sentiment to be, rather than on the sentiment piece, so that I don't have dimensionals where I don't want them. Let me see if I can add this moderately straight and make sure that I get it right side up. And I glued it on backwards to my piece of basic white, y'all. I'm going to have to restamp it. Goodness. Anyway, that's where I'm going to put my sentiment, is right over here when I fix that. So don't do what I did. Goodness. I was trying to be so careful with that vellum to make sure that it dried. And then the very last thing is you have your bumblebee embellishment. And so I'll bring this card up to where you can see how I finished it off. I just added that little gold bumblebee with a glue dot to finish off the card. And then you are able to display your center step fold card. So I hope you guys enjoy this one. Let me know what you think. And I hope you're not intimidated, because it really is easy to cut and fold. Dawn says awesome. Yay. Yes, bling. We love our bling, don't we? Okay, guys, let me know if you have any questions at all. We'll be glad to walk you through and help you with that. I hope that you'll recreate some more of these fun cards. And if you have any questions or need any of these supplies, feel free to reach out. Thanks so much for being here with us for stamp class. We love prepping everything and designing. It's just what we love to do, and we hope that we inspire you just a little bit. Y'all take care. See you later.